Hiya, Dr. Allison JK here. Really pleased to be with you, as I can see that some of you are asking questions about how you're feeling during this time and why is that happening. And it's definitely beyond the stuff like politics and what you're seeing in the news and maybe hearing more sirens go on, because that's the effect. The cause is the astrological alignments that are happening now. We are on Thursday into Friday, and it depends on where you are. Thursday into Friday is a full moon with a total lunar eclipse, and it's the beginning of eclipse season, which is super early this year, and it's also incredibly powerful. We are in what I've come to call a portal of transformation. And it's not just because of the full moon Thursday night with the total lunar eclipse, which you can view in North America, parts of Western, the UK and Europe, just a tad, all over North America. And it starts, the total lunar eclipse, you can start viewing it at 1:54 a.m. New York time, East Coast time, and we're backing up into late, I think 10:54 p.m. Los Angeles time, Thursday night. So then that becomes 6:54 a.m. across the pond for those in the UK, Friday morning. So we can see the total lunar eclipse happening in the night sky, and it's going to appear red. It's called the blood moon because this type of total lunar eclipse looks red when it's happening. You don't need any special viewing glasses for a lunar eclipse. And so this, one of the special aspects of this happening so early is it's also coinciding with the Venus retrograde, which started on March 1st and it goes until April 18th. And so this, I'm going to talk about I'll return to the Venus retrograde, but I just want to suggest that you have, maybe run if you can and go get a piece of rose quartz, because that's going to be super beneficial for you all throughout this Venus retrograde that again started on the 1st of March and is going until April 18th. And rose quartz is a really great representation of the Venus retrograde's energies and what is needed. And in fact, a person in our group here today talked about waking up with her heart chakra like almost vibrating. So the word virgin in Latin, before it was ascribed to Mother Mary, the word virgin actually meant someone with agency over their own self, over their own life. It did not ever have, in the original meaning of the word, the context and meaning and interpretation that is nowadays what's meant by a virgin. Now, isn't that an interesting flip? A woman in particular, a woman who has agency over herself, or a man who has agency over himself, self-possessed, is what virgin means. And so Virgo, which is what the sign is that this full moon is in, has a sense of that, of gaining more agency over yourself and over your life path. Now, this full moon has a load of aspects to it. The planets, a lot of them are in Pisces, which is a super watery energy. And it's kind of the other end of the spectrum to Virgo. It's really spiritual, really expansive, and Virgo is very grounded, earthy energy, very practical. A lot of perfectionists are Virgos, or we could say that the other way around. A lot of Virgos are perfectionists in a way that it's very practical. It's very about planning and strategizing, but getting stuff to materialize. So that's the earthly realm. And so there's an aspect of balancing these two parts of ourselves during this full moon and total lunar eclipse. Now, eclipses are, particularly full moon lunar eclipses, and this is a total, are really good to eclipse the old. They're really good for endings, incompletions. Now, if you sandwich all of this together, the Venus retrograde and the full moon in Virgo and the total lunar eclipse with the majority of the signs in Pisces, this is such an opportunity for massive transformation and for personal transformation from a path that is old, stale, worn out, some parts of it, and really intuiting, being guided, seeing, perceiving what is more your soul's path's destiny. The interesting thing about this, one of the interesting things about this full moon lunar eclipse is that both the south node and north node are active. In the north node, and part of me, I may flip this around, but one of them is about your personal destiny, your soul's destiny, and I believe that's the north node, like your guiding star, your north star, in that saying. And then the south node is about purging the old, the karmic release. And both of these are also activated. So coming back now to the Venus retrograde, I know that the majority of you probably don't know how much work I have done throughout my life with the goddesses. I have come to call through the years my mastermind as a divine mystery school for the, or a mystery school for the divine feminine. I've just nearly completed the planning and the bookings needed for a brand new retreat. I'm starting with my current masterminders, the beloveds who've been with me as long as they have and have gone on the retreats to Glastonbury, receiving their training as vibrational upgrade practitioners, many multiple trips across the pond to Glastonbury, England. And now I'm taking them to a different country, 2 different countries, where there's a lot of divine feminine sites. And part of what I know as a Libra, my ruling planet is Venus. Just like any of you who are Libras and Tauruses, Venus is our ruling planet. Venus has, and I have always made sure to have roses in my house. When I lived in Taiwan, a woman would come into the teacher's room with roses. She was actually an 18 long-stemmed roses for like US $1 or $2. So I had them every Friday. And so even before that and after that, ever since, I've had roses in my house. And if you look at a rose, the original rose, not the ones that have been, you know, hybrid and the modern day rose, but an original rose had 5 petals. And the Venus planet's rotation around the sun over 8 years is that very same 5-petal design. And it's based on the Fibonacci sequence, which is 2 numbers added up before them lead to the next number in the sequence that is the sum of those 2. So it's very mystical. What I want to say though is the ancients, with all their megalithic sites that you all have heard me talk about and seen pictures of me taking my people on retreats to, that I've visited around the world, they act as some kind of calendar. Think of Stonehenge, yeah? And it's very active at winter solstice. It had a lot of, as I've come to find out through the archaeology and excavations, it's had a lot of celebrations at Stonehenge for the winter solstice. I would say from all of my research and understanding and perceiving from walking that land there and going to Stonehenge and its outer lying, I'm going to call it ecosystem of other megaliths, the winter solstice is bigger than the summer solstice. The understanding is that the majority of these megalithic sites all over the world are calendars of some sort to help the ancients, the Neolithic people, as they were moving out of the hunting and gathering in the Neolithic age to becoming farmers and land starting to be cultivated. They used these megalithic structures like Stonehenge to help them mark the stars so they knew when to plant and when to harvest. So they were tracking the stars much more than we do nowadays as we're returning to it in humanity's spiritual awakening times. And why I'm saying this is that there were ancients attuned to Venus and that fact that it was a rose and the fact that it disappeared, right? So isn't it weird? Venus can be a night star as well as a morning star, depending on it's the time of year. It does a 40-day rotation. Well, pardon me, the retrograde's usually 40 days, and the one we're in right now is 43. So the rose pattern There's so much I could talk about here, and I'm getting ahead of myself. The rose pattern is important because it connects to the goddess in the ancient mystery schools. And so the goddess from not only Virgo, Virgin, but also the Venus retrograde, it's a really good time to be nourishing your body. It's a really good time to be loving the sensual, asking where you gain pleasure from, engaging in something that will help you with mind-body healing. You have sleeping with rose quartz. In fact, I would recommend, and I've been doing this for about 2.5 weeks now, sleep with all selenite and rose quartz together, because that will really help you receive a bounty under these alignments and influences coming in energetically. The time that we're in right now, too, with the influence from Venus, it's about beauty, it's about sensuality, it's about pleasure, it's also about finances. And how can you have a balance? Another thing it is about is how to have a balance between the physical and the spiritual. And I have been focusing on that for like 15 years, yeah? Because it's a main aspect to the spiritual awakening times, 2012 to 2032. I want to suggest to you also that time for reflection, so that you can see where you've been, because the stuff that's going to be coming to completion. Now, you can resist it, or you can ask through the resistance, through the changes you're seeing happen that you may not be consciously choosing, what is the new direction you're guiding me towards? Because of all of the things I've said and even more, their energy is up for us to maybe even have an unexpected change of direction within a month's time of this eclipse, and more onto our soul's path's destiny. Now, for those of you who are working with me actively in my bigger programs, you are already on that path. You already have that awareness dialed in, and I'm also supporting you with that. So I have created this event because the veils are thinner during this time, especially with all the Piscean watery energy, for you to be able to perceive more guidance, even more than normal, and for you to be able to use that guidance applied in these beneficial ways I'm talking about to really get a leap on your life. And this is the year to do it. And all of the tuning in I did ahead of 2025, I perceived March and April as being really big months. And then May you'd be quite different, possibly, depending on how you choose to go through these 2 months by May. And so absolutely working with me in Magic Manifestation and Money Flow. For those of you who've been circling the wagon around and wanting to join, this is the time. That's the way to get the biggest bang out of the buck for your investment in your personal transformation, because of the nature of how I help you purge the old, simultaneously opening you to blossoming in the new and calling new possibilities to you in this most systematic, beautiful way. So that's Magic Manifestation and Money Flow. It's right on my website, vibrationalupgrade.com. And then for those of you who, are just hanging down at a lower investment that you're allowing yourself to put into yourself, then you can go into Activate Your Magic. I just did the full moon, total lunar eclipse clearings and activations for Activate Your Magic. That's also on my website, vibrationalupgrade.com. You can go to my programs page. It's the first tier program. However, what I really want to suggest to you is to check out this brand new training that me listening to my guidance and knowing the direction I'm headed in and sensing the times that we're in that I'm talking about now and causing me to do a Facebook Live is this Supercharged Intuition for Empresses. And that's the link that's here. It's a 2-day training where I'm doing special processes I have never offered to the public before to help you have a gateway opened so that your intuition is more fluid and more encouraged to flow, as well as clearings and activations for the relevant aspects of, okay, I can't tell if this is my intuition or it's just my thinking mind. Okay, I can't tell if I've made this up and I'm hearing what I want to hear. It's actually intuitive guidance. Okay, I can discern it's my intuitive guidance. I don't really trust it. Okay, I can tell it's my intuitive guidance. I don't really want to do what it's showing me to do. Like all these different aspects of the intuitive development, really. There's a lot of techniques that I know and a lot of tweaking and technical stuff that I know to do to help somebody really make a quantum leap with their guidance, eventually becoming able to be on demand, on command. And in that, you're able to more gracefully flow as you create your life. That was like an arrow, rather than, of course not react and crisis management and all of that, but rather than it be like a plodding pace, that saying 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So that's Supercharge Intuition for Empresses. There's a lot of specific stuff I'm going to be doing in that 2-day workshop, where it's an hour and a half each day. Recordings will be there live on Zoom. The second day is on the equinox, because that's coming up next week too. So the equinox is on the 20th, and there's 4 points if you think of like the Celtic wheel of the year. The equinoxes in September, I'm an equinox baby, and March, the fall and autumn equinoxes, and then the solstices, the winter and summer solstices. Think of like the cardinal directions. These are the 4 cardinal points of the year. And so the equinox is about balance, and so we can bring in more of that balance too between your intuition and your logical mind. I really love to get people to the point of where they can see their logic is infused with intuitive guidance. It's well beyond brain, left brain, right brain, hemispheric balancing. I started to do this, I realized, in about 2013, and it's more about a whole brain consciousness, where, as I say in my subtitle of my 3rd book, Reasonable Dragons, where logical magic is the new norm. So it's like divine logic or logical magic. So it's an incredibly rich time right now, and I've just given you a lot of information. So why don't we go ahead together, and if you have your rose quartz, because I noticed that there's very few of you here live, which I expected because I didn't preview this or really tell you guys it was coming. But if you want to just take your rose quartz and put it over your 3rd eye, because one of the other aspects of this time right now is that we're feeling more sensitive. So this will help you quiet your 3rd eye. We want to really help you have your intuitive faculties working for you, because that's what they're given to you for. And at a level, I guarantee, that's beyond and more than you think is possible, or that you currently know is possible. Because a lot of you watching this later are going to be aware that I feel intuitive. I'm intuitive. Yeah, that's why I'm with you, Dr. Allison. I'm with you. I have always seen, whether they're a long-term healer or a long-term like investor in their personal development through different programs and coaches, there is always more development for your intuition because of very many different things that I know to do, but in part because of the increased mastery of the management of your mind, understanding your mind better and restructuring it through the different things that I do when working with me. I'm talking about magic manifestation and money flow now, so that you can create space for your intuition to become a flow that you then trust, and that you then have a 2-way engagement with on command, that is beyond what I know that the majority of you are experiencing out there. Please, I know you guys trust me, really hear that. It is a great time to be curious about what other skills you can develop and what other nurturance you can give yourself through your finances, through the way that you nourish your body. If you take a bath in Himalayan pink rose quartz, if you go to some sacred springs, if you go to a steam room, if you engage in some sensual pleasure with your partner or spouse or lover or whatever. So I welcome you all. And by the way, I'm going to be shifting you more towards that 2-way engagement with your intuition on demand in the Supercharged Intuition for Empresses next week. The early bird price ends Sunday night, so you're going to want to get in now rather than wait. I invite you to make the most of these times. You are so cherished and you are so valued. And I invite you to increase that within yourself. Namaste.